so Mike, with your organization, I mean, are you primarily looking at new types of devices? I mean, you have people in pretty hardened environments.
Yeah, we use primarily we use BlackBerries for everything. We use an iPhone just to communicate, and then we only keep selective numbers in the iPhone itself. That's it. There's some real neat devices now that attach to a BlackBerry for encryption and works really well.
And so, switching that over, so speaking of encryption, I mean, what about the other piece of it? I mean, how much are we talking around voice communications? You have people who are, presumably high net worth individuals, the Department of Justice. I'm thinking that if you guys had unencrypted or, open voice, some of your judges or whatever, and people are tapping into their mobile devices, that would be somewhat troublesome, and same for the FBI. I mean, so how is that fitting into your thinking and what types of devices you use and how you use them? So voice versus data, I guess.
I mean, one of the things that we've been trying is if I get a document on my BlackBerry, if it's, say, for example, a draft indictment that's 30 pages long, nobody wants to read a 30-page document on a BlackBerry. It might be a lot easier to, say, forward that to my Gmail account and then read it on my Droid or my iPhone or my iPad as an attachment that's much more easily displays. The trouble is, by doing that, I'm sharing that sensitive, non-classified document with Google and with my ISP and a broad variety of other areas that raise a whole host of security challenges that we've been trained, hopefully, not to do. So we're limited to the device because we have a level of security within that device that we're comfortable with, but there's a lack of functionality. And my concern is, as you point out, where people, they all want to use their iPhones, and it's not just that, they want to use their personal devices on a corporate network. And I think that integration is going to be a truly horrendous problem for security.
You want to sort of continue on that frame?
No, I agree with them, but I mean, I am not in a position. I always joke around at the Bureau, it's yesterday's technology today, so it's, we have BlackBerries as well, and we have our tokens and everything, but we're very restrictive as how we use it.
Yeah, I have Ed Amoroso from AT&T. First off, I agree with the points about being attentive to the mobile threat and selecting devices and so on. But what if I proposed to you a device that had a horrific security record, known vulnerabilities, in fact, so many that you can't count them, and that we basically have to patch every month, and that's the basis for just about every piece of spam and attack and so on that we've ever seen. And I said, would you connect that to your network? You'd go, my God, no, but you do. It's called your PC, right? So while I think it's reasonable to compare relative security models, I think you're right, about BES, that's exactly right. That was designed for that. Just proportionally, we already have probably, the worst, from a PC WAN LAN perspective, the worst security track record in that area, and we don't really have good solutions there. So again, it's good that from a mobility perspective, we're trying to raise the game, so I think that's good. But before anybody sort of jumps off the deep end and says, I'm not going to deploy certain types of devices, let's remember what you already have deployed.
Question for the panel. Michael talked about life and limb as a threat. Howard and Eric, you've talked about risk to financial, enterprise, personal wealth, et cetera. Are you guys seeing, from your perspective, corporate espionage taking place through the mobile platform?
Let me start. Yeah, from our standpoint, we work with theft of company secrets, and I believe it's between that and extortion really on the rise, because I can walk into someone's office with my phone camera, take pictures. I can do just about anything I want. I can buy a program where now my phone's a recorder, and as we all know, that creates more and more threats. And then I can backdoor all of that and work it up the chain in an executive manner. So now I go to my manager, and then my manager would go to the regional manager or the vice president, and before you know it, it's in the CEO's hands. So yeah, it's a terrible threat from our standpoint, and to the point where now when merger acquisitions are occurring, they're talking any sort of serious business, we tell them that they need to leave the phones outside. No one can bring a phone in. Especially now, you can also silent dial a phone. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you can actually silent dial the phone, so now the phone becomes a microphone, and you have no idea that somebody else is on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Sorry, hi. Jeff Fawcett with Dell. Question to you, Howard. I've been talking to some of the healthcare facilities, some of the large hospital associations, and it seems to be the trend right now where they're starting to let the doctors and clinicians come in with any phone they want. And I've asked them how they're addressing the security, and what they've told me is that long as our clinicians and doctors sign NDAs, if there's any exposure of patient data, they're legally covered. So I found that a bit disconcerting, and just wanted to pass on and get your thoughts about that, that they're thinking that they don't have to address security because they've had everybody sign NDAs.
And my argument, again, I'm not an expert on HIPAA, but HIPAA mandates that medical records have to be protected in a variety of forms. And the fact that you're allowing an individual to bring in their own personal device suggests that there hasn't been enough attention paid to HIPAA requirements, that doctor, as an employee of the hospital, has an obligation to protect that data in whatever format it may lie, because of the inherent protections that HIPAA places on protecting medical records.
Yeah, we have a question over here.
Yeah, you were discussing at the introduction all of the financial capabilities that are going and all the financial apps that are going onto the mobile platform. And historically, I don't think the banks have paid overly much attention to security, as we saw last November with all the usernames and passwords stored in the clear for a number of these applications. But now the banks are putting P2P transfer capabilities on the phone and some more high-risk transactions. What kinds of vulnerabilities are you seeing and issues in place? Because the horse is out of the barn, and a lot of banks are viewing mobile more strategic in the long term than their online platform.
Like I mentioned before, we're seeing a lot of the banking type Trojans migrating over to the mobile platform. One of my colleagues actually from Germany who's here in town this week was talking about what they've been seeing over there, and it's one of the reasons why we're facilitating this meeting at our facility, because it depends on what side of the pond you're on, right? So we saw a lot of ACH type activity over the last year or so. They're seeing a lot of what I would term almost like call forwarding fraud. Only it's the banks over there will text message certain information to the customers over in Europe, and they're seeing takeovers of that with various malware associated with. So because you have to you get one phone number and you get multiple SIM cards for your different devices, they're seeing one of those devices being compromised, and they order a SIM card, and then they're actually taking the actual SMS text. They're actually getting the text and not the customer, and then they're doing all sorts of activity. So there's always a concern. It's like an escalation, like anything else. And we've just seen it over the last 10 years. We put something in place, and then they get something else. But we're seeing that migration because, as Howard mentioned, if there's money to be made on it, they're going to go ahead and do it. And why not use a tool that's already out there to do that? So yeah, we are seeing that.